welcome to Groundwater Talk Live. And today we're going to do a little postmortem on a water well siting study we did in East Tennessee. And I will tell you that sometimes, in spite of our best efforts and our best analysis, we just don't get the results we'd hoped for or expected. You know, we want every well to be a great well, but sometimes the geology doesn't cooperate. But in those cases, it's really important to do a post-mortem to really understand why we didn't get the results we wanted, and so that we don't, so that we, add that to our database, and the next time we look at these things, that we can really, incorporate that information. Experience counts in this business, and in spite of everything, we don't always get it right. Let me turn up the audio here. We're having. See if that's a little better. Is that better? Let me. I am. I notice my audio has been a little low here, so we're trying to fix that, and I'm not seeing I got everything at 100% here. So hopefully we can, if everybody can hear me okay, let me know in the comments if you will, because I've got it myself cranked up pretty much all the way here. So I'm hopefully I'm not blasting everybody out. So maybe if I just turn off, let me switch my microphone to just a straight, see how that works. Is that any better? I'm just not understanding why. It's interesting that I don't usually have, I got everything cranked all the way up on my microphone, so let me, hold on a minute here. Let me try this. There we go. There we go. So I think we're doing better. All right. So thanks for the comments and letting me know. Now I'm probably too high. So, all right. Good. Let's get going here. So let me turn off all this stuff and that I was doing to adjust my mic here and go from there. Jeez, come on. All right. So always a glitch when you're live, so you just got to deal with it. So anyway, we don't always get getting back into the presentation. We don't always get the results we want, and that, I mean, generally we do pretty good. We've had a good track record, but when you don't get the results you want, in spite of your best efforts, it's always important to go in and do a postmortem and understand exactly, what was going on with the geology, what could have been going on, the drilling results, and understand why you didn't get what you wanted. And that's kind of what this is. I know a lot of people out there always like to talk about their successes, and we all do, but sometimes, you have these things that don't go quite right, and I think it's important to talk about those, and so we can all learn. Because if everything goes right all the time, then there's really no learning experience. When things don't go right, that's your learning experience, and it adds to the database, like I say, and we can then learn from that and apply that and do better next time. So that's what we're looking at here today. I am. All right, so as we get going here, like, comment, share. I'm going to, later on, if you're an expert in groundwater and want to come on the show, I'd love to have you. I will tell you at the end of the show how you can come on and be a guest. I'm in the process of lining up some guests, so I will tell you at the end of the show how we do that. And so let's dive in here. So this is a project we did in East Tennessee, and it was actually for a large residential. They got a lot of land, and they were going to do some things there. So it's kind of a residential plus, and unfortunately, it's like people like to do. It's on the top of a hill, and the tops of the hills are generally not good places to drill for water anyway, in the best of circumstances. But we thought we might have had a shot here, and I'll show you in a little bit the geology and some of the background and what we did and the results we got. So let's look at this. We'll start off with, like I like to do, Google Earth is a great tool for looking at this stuff. And let me zoom in here to our property. This, like I say, in East Tennessee, down in the southern East Tennessee, in Polk County. And this is actually the property that we're looking at. It is, let me zoom out here a little bit. This is near the real small town of Reliance in Polk, Tennessee. Let me turn on the topographic map overlay so we can get an idea of what's going on with that, which isn't cooperating with me either right now, but let's see what we're doing here. It's thinking about it. All right. I just had this on a couple minutes ago. So, my goodness, all kinds of problems today. So that's the problem with going live. This is just not working for me here. I wonder if my internet is... No, that's all good. Well, we'll just have to roll on without that particular aspect of it. So I will, if I can, I will show you the topography here a little bit later. But this is the property. Generally, what we have is a creek that runs up here. The property itself, this is actually a hill where I'm showing you here, and then it drops back down to another creek. The topography actually runs this direction. So we are seeing hills that are aligned to the northeast. We are in the Valley and Ridge province of Tennessee. So you see a lot of these northeasterly trending ridges, and a lot of that has to do with the structures, the faulting that goes on. And indeed, we will see. Boy, I wish I could get that. No, it is just not cooperating here. So I'm going to have to, we'll just go with the aerial photos here. So there is, first off, there are a couple borings that were done on the site in the way of a little background. So this test boring was drilled to 800 feet. They got no water whatsoever. This test boring was drilled to, they got 5 gallons per minute based on the water well driller's report. I'm a little dubious that it was actually that much. They went deeper to 805 feet and didn't get any more water. So there are 2 test borings on the property. And that's kind of what we looked at. There is, I'm kind of getting thrown off by all the little problems we're having here today, but here is our geology. So we have, this is the property here that I got outlined in red, and you can see everything kind of trends northeast here, the geology. This is, we have 2 formations we're dealing here with. We have the Sandsuck Shale, and we have the Ocoee Formation, the fine-grained unit. neither of these are really great for just geology-wise. Neither of these is really great for producing water. So we're really hoping for some other things going on here where we get the rock broken up from some faults. And you can see we do have that fault there, that line running through there. We'll talk a little bit about that. That is the Silco Creek Fault, and that was really our target in this investigation. But the stratigraphy itself here is the Sandsuck Shale it's somewhere undeterminate age, Cambrian to Precambrian, somewhere in there. It is an argillaceous micaceous shale with some sandstone and quartz pebble conglomerate. So really not great for, the problem with shale is it does not tend to break up. It tends to slide on each other and doesn't tend to break up and give you that broken rock that you need for a good aquifer in bedrock. And the Ocoee Formation fine-grained unit in this place is generally a buff-colored fine sandstone, generally cemented, and a well-indurated quartzite. So well-indurated means that it's very compact, and there's not much room in there for water to move. So in either of these cases, there's not a lot of primary porosity in the rock itself. So what we're looking at is development of secondary porosity for in terms of faults and fractures breaking up the rock, and that would be our aquifer. So then what we're relying on here is the Silco Creek Fault Zone. It trends northeast and dips to the southeast about 30 to 35 degrees. So it's basically a thrust fault. So it's a low angle fault. It lies underneath the property we're looking at. So that's generally what our target is going to be here. Let's look at a cross section. So this is our property here. You can see the Silco Creek Fault Zone there. That is a splay off of the Great Smoky Fault. This is what you get in the Valley and Ridge province of East Tennessee, is you get a lot of these low angle faults, and it just repeats the geology throughout. And so on the right we have the Ocoee Formation, that fine grained unit, and on the left of the Silco Creek Fault, the lower plate, we have the Sandsuck Shale. So that's what we're dealing with. We're not getting dealt a great hand of cards here, so we're trying to make do with what we got. So let's look at what our analysis really came down to. We went into this and we did some analysis. Here is a number of wells in the area. We plotted these up, and you can see that we actually to the north here, we have right off the property bound, there's a 50 gallon a minute well. That would have been great. We were shooting for, something 10 to 20 gallons a minute. There are some of these up here as well. And then we get down to the southern part. Let me show you. This is the actual trace of the Silco Creek Fault. It's a low angle fault. It's dipping back this direction about 30 to 35 degrees. So it's lying underneath the property at about, between 400 to 600 feet, depending on where you drill on the property. So that was really our target. Our hope is we would have a thrust fault that would bust things up down there. And I think these wells up here, based on the well construction details, actually drilled into the Silco Creek Fault Zone, which broke the rock up there, and they actually got pretty decent yields there. Down to the south here, we have a 15 gallon a minute well that's just in the upper plate of the Silco Creek Fault. That was 15 gallons a minute, so kind of within our target area. So we thought that we really had a shot here to do that. These two wells, there's a well here down lower that's 50 gallons a minute, and this 20 gallon a minute well. Well, I believe those are related to a fault zone that runs along the Hiwassee River here in Reliance, and we're probably not going to be able to, we won't see that on this property. So it's related to a separate set of geologic conditions that are not going to be present on the property here. So really what we're targeting here is maybe some cross fractures that are going to intersect the low angle Silco Creek fault zone at depth. And so we went in and we did our fracture trace analysis. So we're looking at the fractures, and this is basically what we came up with here. Nothing here was really distinct when we were pulling up the aerial photography, the satellite photography, the digital terrain models. But we thought that maybe this one here would extend down and intersect the Silco Creek fault zone at depth. This appears to be relatively vertical fracture, and that we would maybe get a zone down below that would be broken up enough to produce be a good aquifer and produce have decent production. So we came up with a number of locations here. So let me just plot these up here and show you what we came up with. And I wish my topo maps would come up, but I have no idea why they're not working right now. It's an online source, so there may be some glitch there because it would help show the topography. But at any rate, we're lower down here. This is Reliance Teleco Road here. Generally, the fault trace for the Silco Creek fault goes along there. It's actually thrusting from the southeast, and so it daylights here along the road. You can actually see it in some places, and then so that's low angle, so it's dipping about like that. And then what we want is the vertical fracture coming down and hitting it and breaking up rocks. That was our target. So we were looking at okay, that's for some reason we're having an internet error here. So we're looking at this zone here was our primary. Unfortunately, what I was really looking at was this area down here. I thought might be a little bit better, and unfortunately, due to both the topography, the steepness of the topography, and the denseness of the vegetation, they just didn't want to get down there and build a road down there. And I understand it would have been, steep road. It would have been tough to take down the trees to get down there. So there is a road that goes through here, and so we were shooting for the same thing along this road. There are some wet spots, could be a spring up there. I don't know. I don't think that was really the case right up on top, but so that is the location they selected to drill 1B. We also looked at some other areas that were here. These probably were similar to where they got the 15 gallon a minute well down here. So we looked at those as alternatives, but once again, access was pretty challenging, even though you're right off the road here. The other place we looked at was location 4, and I still think that's a good location, but it's quite a ways away from where they wanted to build their house. And they were going to put a barn in here, so it was quite a ways away. So that ended up being a little lower priority, but it was more in the area of these more productive wells. And as it turned out, that was probably where we should have drilled, but because it was farther away, they didn't want to do that. So that basically is our analysis here. What else do we have? They drilled at this location. They drilled down, and about 450 feet, they actually hit the what appears to be the Silco fault, Silco Creek fault. They got about 1.5 gallons per minute, so not anywhere near what we were hoping for. And basically, it looks like we had fault gouge filling the fault, and it really didn't develop any open space for the water to flow through. And so the fault was there, got a little bit of water on it. So we knew we hit the fault based on the drilling results. They continued drilling to 800 some feet and really didn't get any more water than that one zone. So and that was definitely the fault. But basically at this location, that thrust fault looks like it's just kind of sliding on the shale and the finer units, and it just did not break up the rock, and we didn't get any secondary porosity developed to get our water. So that was probably unexpected results. It was disappointing, but this is tough terrain. Probably they should have gone and this is why we do multiple locations, so backup locations. They probably should have gone to this location and drilled there, because obviously at these locations, doing an analysis of the well logs on these is that the Silco Creek fault opens up, so the broken rock is down there providing enough water for these yields in these wells. So this would have been the location that would have been closest on the property with decent access to do that. So they should have done that, but after but unfortunately the client after drilling this and not getting great results, they just kind of abandoned everything and started wildcat drilling and really didn't get anything else. So they really should have done this, and that this is why we do backup locations, because sometimes the primary location does not work. Usually it does, but sometimes the geology does not cooperate, and that's what was going on in this situation. So that is kind of the postmortem on that, and looking at what why we didn't get the results we want. It's just the geology did not cooperate. That fault was sliding along. The fault was there. We hit the fault, got a little bit of water on it, but the rocks did not break up enough to provide that secondary porosity that you need to have a good aquifer and a good source of water. So that appears to be what's going on, and they probably should have gone to the alternative of location 4, and I think they had probably had a better shot there. So yeah, exactly, Jason. It's he got I mean, he was really expecting to get the big hit, and this is the problem sometimes when you do residential properties for people, and I don't do a lot of that, but in this case he really insisted, and they get a little more emotional. If you're dealing with a municipality, then they kind of understand how these things go, and they would have just moved on to a secondary location, and that's really what they should have done, and in the other case, they didn't call me until I didn't even know they were drilling, so I was not available when they called me as they were drilling. And by the time I managed to connect back up with them, they'd already finished drilling and threw up their hands and just started drilling randomly out there instead of following the advice and going to a secondary location. So yeah, they got a little emotional about it and weren't happy that they didn't get a gusher at that location, but that's kind of the way it goes sometimes. I mean, it's unfortunate, and probably the reason I don't do a lot of residential is it's municipalities kind of understand how these things go, and so municipalities they tend to be have the experience in these things. So and residential, they got a lot of emotion wrapped up in it. So you're exactly right. So anyway, our conclusions are that we did hit our target zone. The Silco Creek fault zone was there. We encountered it at a depth of about 450 feet, so right about where we thought. Unfortunately, the yield of the target zone was about 1.5 gallons per minute, which was not adequate for our needs. So the fracturing was not significant enough to create aquifer conditions or that secondary porosity. And without secondary porosity, you don't get any water, because the types of rocks that are here just do not have that primary porosity where the water will flow through them. The shales and those fine grains and cemented sandstones just don't transmit a lot of water unless you break them up. So without that secondary porosity, you don't have any water. So fairly simple conclusions. It's really kind of hard to say, until you drill, you don't know exactly what's down there. There was water. It just wasn't enough. And I think if they drilled at location 4, they probably would have, as the backup location, they probably would have gotten, maybe not that 50 gallons a minute right to the north of them, but they probably would have gotten acceptable amounts of water and would have had to run a longer water line. But sometimes that's the way it goes. And once again, drilling on the top of a hill is really not the best place to put a well. It's just for a lot of reasons that we're not going to dive into here, just not the best place to drill a well. And so it's challenging to start with. And then we had geology that just didn't cooperate. And between those two, we didn't get it on our first shot. So that is our conclusions there. And yeah, that's you can't just order up the water. The geology has to cooperate, and you got to get the drill in the right spot, and that's kind of what it comes down to. And sometimes, the geology doesn't cooperate, and you just don't get the water, and that's why, once again, it's good to go in here and do a postmortem, and yeah, that's that's not unreasonable for that part of the world to drill to 450 feet or 800 feet. But I probably wouldn't have drilled to 800 feet because I think the fault was shallower than that. And so that's really, I think I put that back up there. That's really not that unusual in that location. Now, where I'm at in Middle Tennessee, a lot of the residential wells around here are less than 100 feet. So that's you either get it or you don't in those locations. So that's really kind of what we see here. But some parts of the world, you're drilling 800, 1,000 feet, and that's pretty normal. And down here, I'd say that 450, 500 feet would have been pretty reasonable. I wouldn't have gone to 800 because there was no indications that you had anything deeper. And we go back and I didn't go through all our analysis. I've done plenty of shows on how we do this, but we go back and look at the other drill logs in the area and see how deep they've drilled and try to match that up to the geology and see if we can figure things out there. And we did that in this one, and that really was why we were expecting to hit it about 450 feet or so, and so this is our postmortem on this, and that the geology didn't cooperate. They should have gone to location 4, but as Jason said, the emotions got the best of them, and they said, this stupid geologist, doesn't know what he's talking about, and so he just starts randomly drilling, and didn't get any better results on the random drilling either, because he wasn't following the pattern. So, and I always come up with, if you got a big enough property, I always come up with, somewhere between 3 and 4 alternative locations, just because of scenarios like this. So, yeah, let me go back to my Google Earth here and show you on here is that These are all wells that are owned by other people. There is a state of Tennessee database, and most states have this. And here's some other wells that I didn't plot up, but actually I download all this as a CSV file. I dump it right in Google Earth, and then each one of these is a data point that tells me I can bring up this information, and it tells me the latitude and longitude. Google Earth automatically plots it up based on the GPS coordinates in the CSV file. So I can look and see here that this is all the data that's available. So this well was 50 gallons a minute. The static water level was 10 feet. They drilled it to 185 feet. It was drilled in 2018. So we even know who the owner's name is and all that. So we plot these up, and then we match it up to the geology and the depth and see what they were hitting, and that gives us some idea of what we're looking at. So we plot this up, and we can say, okay, you got a line of wells here that have fairly decent yields, and so obviously they were targeting, and they were drilling into, based on the depth, they were hitting this Silco Creek fault zone at depth. So based on that, we thought we had a reasonable chance in here of duplicating some of those results. But the problem is with thrust faults in fine-grained sediments is sometimes they slide on it and they don't open up, or they develop fault gouge, which is really a clay material that just plugs it up. And that's what happens sometimes. And, we run into that elsewhere too. And so we have all this data at our disposal that we do when we locate these wells. So that's kind of giving us a little bit of background here. And let me go back to my end screen here. And yeah, so that is, yeah, you're absolutely right. You can have one beautiful geophysical, let me pop that back up there, data that shows an indication of fracture, and yet there's no water when drilling. So yeah, you've seen this scenario too. If you're in this business long enough, you're going to get some disappointments. But like I say, the important thing is we go through this postmortem and we understand exactly why we didn't get the results we had hoped for or expected, and add that to our experience. And I like to say that every gray hair on my head represents one of these incidences, and that's all experience right there. And we just got a few more gray hairs from this project, but it's that they, bottom line is they should have stayed with the game plan and gone on to the to an alternative location, and they probably would have been fine based on the results. And that's the other thing. And unfortunately, they did not communicate with me. If I'd known ahead of time that they were drilling that day, I would have made myself available and kept off the phone and not gone anywhere, and would have been available to kind of guide them on that. But I usually like to know when they're drilling, even if they don't have me out there. I usually like to know when they're drilling so I can at least be available by phone, and so we can kind of course correct as we go along. So that is the show. If anybody has any more questions, I'm happy to answer those. Otherwise, if you are a groundwater expert, I would love to have you on the show. If you got something that you want to talk about, that you want to share your expertise, I would love to have you on the show. This is my link. I also posted up my email address, so you can get a hold of me, but you can actually get on and book a session. I'd love to have you on the show because, it's different people have different experiences that they can share, and that's all great stuff, and that helps me learn too. So, all right, with that, that is the show. Thank you for watching. All my past shows are available on the Groundwater Guy YouTube channel. We stream to LinkedIn and some other places, but all the past shows are available on the Groundwater Guy YouTube channel. You can subscribe to that. You can hit the bell so it'll alert you when we got new shows coming out. We have 90 some videos up there now. So there's something for everybody up there. So we do this every Thursday, 11 a.m. Central Time, and I will look forward to talking to you next week when we are going to talk about hydrostratigraphic analysis, the other part of looking for water wells. Everybody, have a